guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to read an email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy. He is in his 50s. He's from over in the UK. He is a father and now ex-husband, happily divorced from a harpy. And he shares his story, how he's able to have the last laugh after catching his wife cheating on him. And you're going to see on multiple fronts, guys, this guy has the last laugh, as men usually do when they're strong enough to move past the divorce and the cheating and all that. And I've been going to go over here for all of you guys that maybe have been through something like this, or maybe you're going through something like this right now. If you live your life well, you look at the big picture, the long game, you're going to end up okay. And it's a little bit longer story, but bear with me on this one. And by the way, this guy, he writes very well. He's obviously a British gentleman, and so he can write this thing pretty well. If any of you guys think, oh, this is written too well, that must sound like BS, it's not. I did some homework on this guy. He's legit. It says here, Dear SSM, I'm a new subscriber and having found your YouTube channel by chance. You may not want to use this story as it has no excitement, but to me it's an example of extreme wife swap. Well, your story has some good stuff, so that's why I'm covering it. I'm writing you in order to relate my tale of woe. I hope that you will find it both entertaining and perhaps educational. I handled the discovery of my wife cheating in a way that will no doubt earn me one of your infamous smacks, but as the story ends well, I hope to redeem myself. Well, you do redeem yourself, and yes, I will smack you. Before I start with the betrayal story, I should first provide you with some background here. I went to school here in Yorkshire, which is a beautiful part of England. The school was rubbish, and though I consider myself to be of at least average intelligence, I left at 15 years old with not a single qualification. So from what I have heard and read, and been told actually, by 15 years old, that pretty much, at least in the past, would determine kind of where you go in life, whether you're going on to further schooling or the workforce. That's at least what I was told. At least that's how things used to be in England. I left at 15 years old with not a single qualification. Indeed, the only thing I was any good at was judo as a sport, which I still love today. My other interest was guitar, and I played for a local cover band. We played AC/DC, Status Quo, and other popular rock bands, and I loved it. That's awesome, man. AC/DC has always been one of my favorites. Not having any qualifications meant my job prospects were pretty limited, and so at 16 years old, I joined Her Majesty's Forces and became a junior single man in the Army. I excelled in the Army and was promoted to a corporal in less than a year. At 17? Okay. Again, this was a different time period, and it's England, so who knows. I represent our regiment at judo and won several medals in my weight category. Army life was good for me. As I grew more mature, I developed muscles and confidence, which made me popular with the ladies. Well, it helped you grow up, because they don't fuck around. Well, one weekend when I was around 22 years old, okay, so we're jumping forward in time here, I was home on leave, and I was invited to play with my old band at a pub in the center of town. The pub was heaving, and the atmosphere was crazy. People danced and sang along with our music, and we felt great. Around halfway through the night, I noticed a young woman staring directly at me, and she was gorgeous. Her eyes never left mine, and she was smiling in a sultry way. Her big boobs bounced in a way that made my pulse quicken. I was smitten. Smitten, you can tell he's a British gentleman here. Dude, you're in a band. You're 22. You're military. You're a good-looking young guy. It's not that hard to get girls to be smitten with you. But that's awesome. The problem is it's the wrong girl that you don't want to be smitten with you. But you were just checking out those big tits. Well, after our gig, the band and I retired to the bar and began swigging full-bodied Yorkshire ale. And we were feeling good, and the gig was a big success. And, of course, we were well paid. Suddenly I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around and saw that girl, and she said, "Can I buy you a drink?" And let me finish this little chapter of my life by saying that we got together, we woke up together the next morning, and spent the day together, which after time meant we spent the following 26 years together. So obviously this is not your first girlfriend or first lay, but boom, right then and there. Well, it goes to show you guys, when a girl likes you, she makes it as obvious as can be and goes for it. This is why when girls don't put in the effort, it shows they don't like you very much. Well, I retired from the Army the following year and soon found work on Civvy Street as a manager for our local employment office, helping the long-term unemployed find work. A year later, my now ex-wife fell pregnant, and this was in 1988, and in those days, you were expected to marry if a baby was imminent, so we did. Well, given that's the culture and how things were, then I'm not going to smack you. But well, no, smack you anyway. Should have done what you knew was best, and not marry her. But what's done is done. Well, my career grew well, and after 10 years, I founded a charity which since blossomed, and I'm doing quite well. Well, that's wonderful, man. See, the thing is, at 15, you weren't dumb. It's just it sounds like you didn't have very good teachers and mentors and educational system to help you out. But you're also 15, for heaven's sake. Sounds like the Army made you grow up and mature, and then you obviously found things you were good at and just grew from there. My wife worked for our local authority, and although she worked part-time between us, we brought in a healthy income. After 20 years or so of what I thought was a reasonably happy marriage, our children left home, and my wife and I used the freedom to travel. As a CEO, my annual leave entitlement was now 31 days a year, fully paid, and my wife had 28 days of paid leave. CEO, you've certainly moved up since 15. This is why, guys, if you're young and feel like you're not going anywhere in life, but if you actually have natural intelligence, you just haven't been exposed to good mentorship in school, you push yourself, you persevere and go for things, you'd be amazed where you may end up 25 years later. We traveled extensively and saw some wonderful places. We saw most of Europe, parts of Asia, and West and North Africa. It was a happy time in our life. Bro, that's awesome. What a great adventure. One afternoon, I was at work when my mobile rang, and seeing it was my wife, I answered. She asked me to bring wine home that night as two of our friends, Ronnie and Mitchell, not their real names, of course, were coming for dinner. Ronnie is a longtime friend of mine, and Mitchell is French, who Ronnie met whilst on a summer break in I can't pronounce the place, but it was somewhere in France. On my way home, I called in at the local supermarket and picked up some champagne and bottles of rather delicious Rioja. When I arrived home, I noticed a commotion in front of our neighbor's house. Seeing that my wife was involved, I jumped out of the car and swiftly approached them. And what I saw was shocking. Big Bob, as he likes to be called, was berating my wife because she had parked her car blocking about 8 inches of his driveway. Big Bob was 6'6" beast of a man, a bully, and a 24-carat bastard. He was glowing like a beetroot, and his anger was causing shouts and abuse and accusations. Okay, she accidentally blocked his driveway. That's annoying, but unless she does this all the time, no need for Big Bob to be a douchebag, but obviously he's a douchebag. To be fair, my wife was giving as good as she got, but this was making matters worse. I stepped between them and demanded to know what the hell was going on. Well, Big Bob lost it and grabbed my collar and tried to pull me towards him. The second a motherfucker puts their hands on you guys, you got every right to beat the living shit out of them. The law may not see it that way, but, well, at least, well, I'm in Florida. In Florida, they would allow that, but you know what I mean. He grabbed my collar and tried to pull me towards him. His disgusting breath filled my nose. I'm a small but stocky guy, 5'6", but years of judo kicked in, as well as the military, and seconds later, Big Bob was on his back in a hold that would dislocate his shoulder with just a slice movement by me. He should have done it. Big Bob deserved that. It still took 3 to 4 minutes for Big Bob to calm down, and by now, half the avenue was filming it. Eventually, things cooled off with Big Bob, humiliated, scurried back to his house. Of course, he scurried because he's a bully. 1 hour later, our friends Ronnie and Mitchell arrived. By the way, guys, Ronnie and Mitchell are important to this guy's story here. I'm sure you could probably connect the dots if you've been watching me a while where this goes. And my wife told them that our little adventure of Big Bob, and she kept calling me her hero, her knight in shining armor, her savior. Michelle was enthralled by the story, but Ronnie seemed unimpressed. He says, I could have done that the same if I had been there, he repeated. This is your bro, and he's downplaying you standing up for your wife against this giant douchebag. There's a sign. The following week, my wife informed me that she and 3 of her colleagues were planning a 5-day trip to Granada next month as a girls' retreat because work had been so hard lately. Uh-oh. Girls' trip, girls' retreat, whatever you want to call it. It ain't good. Well, 5 days of myself sounded great to me, so I readily agreed. For those who haven't been, I want to recommend visiting Granada. It is southern Spain. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Well, it seems like in Spain and a lot of places, they're really lashing out at tourists now. I'm sure many of you guys have read articles about that, maybe even witnessed this, you know. They're biting the hands that feed them. Wait till their economy has a negative impact because of that. I see a lot of that in Spain. A month passed, and my wife A month passed, and my wife's departure arrived. She was fussing around the house, double checking everything, blah blah blah, and eventually we heard the sound of her friend's car outside. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek and told me she missed me and dashed out the door, and I breathed a sigh of relief. About 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I answered anyway. It was my wife. She said, "I'm so sorry," but she forgot her phone. "I'm ringing you from Julie's phone. Mine is on the bedside of the table charging. Can you switch it off, please? Put it in the drawer." No problem, I said. "Have a lovely time." Lovely. Uh-oh. The phone, huh? Gee, that's tempting. When I eventually went upstairs to her bedroom, I picked up her phone, but before I could switch it off, it vibrated in my hand. A message. Looking at the message preview, I saw the words, "I miss you, my lips." My lips? Which lips is he referring to? Of course, I opened the message. "I miss you, my lips. Miss your lips, XX." I had no idea what this meant. I was confused, and I just stared at the screen, and another message from the same number popped up. "So does my Bobby's helmet, XX." The stupid shit people say that are in love or in lust with each other. Well, wife's up to no good. Big surprise. I'm sorry, dude. For American listeners, let me explain. A Bobby is an old name for a policeman. Dude, I know this, and I would imagine most people above the age of 35 knows this, but if you're younger, don't know, yes, a Bobby, the guy with the big-ass helmet or hat, whatever you want to call him. If you imagine the shape of a British policeman's helmet, you will understand what part of his body he's referring to. This is the part where I confess to feeling guilty for invading my wife's privacy. Bollocks to that. Without the slightest feeling of guilt or shame, I snooped through my wife's phone. No way she should feel guilty about that. You have every right now to invade everything. I discovered that my wife had been having an affair for over 2 years. Sorry, bro. And the odds are this isn't her first rodeo. The messages were full of meet-up plans, terms of endearment, and postmortems of sweaty encounters. There was only one picture. It was of my wife wearing nothing but a black lacy bra with matching panties. And let me guess, you've never seen that picture before, and you probably never saw her in that outfit before. I forwarded everything to my phone, and then sat in my bed, my head in my hands, and I was dumbfounded and went through a range of emotions, from anger to sadness to denial to vengefulness and round again. That's completely normal, man. That's the roller coaster. It ain't gonna stop. I grabbed my phone and determined to ring her friend and tell her to tell my wife not to come home. But I stopped myself. Instead, I went to the dining room and poured myself a rather large single malt whiskey. I sat in my big fat cozy chair and thought about the whole thing. Yeah, nobody would blame you at all for pouring a big glass of whiskey. In fact, frankly, most people would probably take the whole fucking bottle and sit on the big chair. Problem with that is a lot of guys then do stupid shit afterwards. Well, I was thinking about my life, such as it was with my wife. I did love her, of course, I did, but did I like her? She's a bitch. She nags me, she talks down to me, and she's never wrong. How many times I've apologized to her when I've done nothing wrong just to end an argument. Smack! What the fuck, man? That is the most bitch-ass behavior that husbands do. Happy life, happy wife. Or, no, what do I say? Happy wife, happy life. Apologizing something you didn't do wrong to end an argument, that's only going to encourage her to be worse. Women don't respect guys like that. Okay? And you said flat out that she's a bitch and she nags you. I mean, well, all wives and girlfriends nag. Newsflash. And you got to nip that shit in the bud. They're still going to nag. But still, it sounds like you just tolerated her the last few years because of the kids. Well, now you got reason to get rid of her. I recall that her parents, both who are dead now, her mother was the daughter of a seamstress and her father was the son of a bitch. Unfortunately, my wife had inherited her father's personality. No, she's not a nice person, and on top of that, she cheats on me. The nerve of the woman, I knew one thing, the marriage is over. Well, good. But it sounds to me the marriage has been over for a very long time, but it sounds like you just stay with her because, she's the mother of your kids, and I hope like hell those are both your children. And that's just obviously what you did. I spent the next few days plotting my life from that moment forward. Divorce is not an option. I refuse to leave my home or share the proceeds of a sale with a treacherous cow, and UK law does not take adultery in consideration. Bro, you gotta divorce her. I get it's different. different laws over there, and I know you don't want to lose things, but really you want to spend the rest of your life with her? And especially since you caught her, and eventually she's going to find out that you know, and you stay with her, that's going to make her treat you worse. Better to lose half your shit and rebuild. You're a smart guy and have proven that you can make things happen for yourself than to spend the rest of your life with that harpy. Life's too short, man. Seriously. But don't worry, guys. He obviously knows this. And anyhow, on her return from her girls' retreat, I did not confront her. Instead, I told her that I had slept so well alone in bed, I'll be moving into the guest room from now on. I increased my judo sessions to twice a week and practiced with a band another evening every week. Life was good, and I was enjoying myself, and she didn't seem to care. Because she doesn't care. She's probably thrilled that you're in a different room. And bro, she's cheating behind your back. What the fuck? The only thing that bothered me was the identity of the owner of Bobby's helmet. Yeah, he still doesn't know who this is. After a few months, I decided to create a safety net and see a lawyer just in case. Now you're thinking. Luckily, Michelle, Ronnie's wife, was a family solicitor. I wasn't sure about confiding in a friend, but then decided to meet her. We arranged to meet at a local restaurant for lunch the following day. The days were hot, so we sat outside, ate seafood, and drank champagne. Well, that's quite the legal meeting. So you're meeting up with your female friend, who's who's the wife of your bro Ronnie, and she's obviously friends with your wife. Isn't that kind of a conflict here? But okay. We spoke in French for extra privacy, and I told Michelle everything, showing her the text messages and the one photo that I had, and I told her that I was now a single married man and was living happily like that, but wanted her to keep the evidence of my wife cheating in case things blew up and divorce was the only available path. She offered her sympathy and promised to keep it quiet. After we chatted about nothing much, enjoyed the remaining part of the 2 hours we hung out, and we agreed to do it again sometime. Well, time passed by. Any feelings I once had for my wife was long gone. She was nothing to me now, a mere woman who just happened to live in the same house. Bro, what you're describing is most marriages after a period of time. Here come the sirens. Been a few days. My wife, now in her early 50s, was still a handsome woman with a good figure, but I'd rather fuck a long-dead pig than that touch of a sullied woman. My wife, on the other hand, seemed to be desperate to regain my attention, cooking meals, buying my favorite wines, ensuring the house was spotless, and leaving the little love notes around the house. Because she knew something was up. She knew there's a reason why you suddenly wanted to go to a different room, and you weren't around her very much. She wants to secure what she has. In the meantime, I carried on, working, playing guitar, attending judo class, and occasionally meeting Michelle for lunch. Well, I've carried on like this for almost a year until one morning, I received a phone call from Michelle asking me to meet for lunch. I asked where, expecting the name of the restaurant, but she simply told me my office. 2 hours later, we were sipping tea and talking, and she says, I have something to show you. She opened her phone, pressed a few keys, and slid across the desk towards me. Picking up, I glanced at it, and on the screen was the same picture I discovered on my wife's phone a year ago. I asked her, where'd you get this? And she said it was on Ronnie's phone. Ronnie, as in this guy's bro, as in her husband. His bro is banging his wife. She said he's cleverer than your wife. All the messages were deleted, but presumably he couldn't bear to let go of this picture. Things escalated very quickly. Michelle was unwilling to turn a blind eye like I'd done, so she had confronted Ronnie the very next day. Well, I like Michelle. She's taking care of shit. But Michelle also knows, obviously, Michelle's a woman. So she's going to get a better deal in the divorce than you would have. She told him she saw the messages and that I had shown her. She told him that I'd known about the affair for over a year and only his identity was unknown. Obviously, Ronnie told my wife, and just 3 days later, I stood in my living room staring out into the garden through the French doors, whilst my wife stood behind me crying and talking to the back of my head, trying to justify her affair. Of course, that's what they do. The waterworks, and now to proceed in blaming you for the reason she was fucking another guy, your best friend for 2 years. And then the gaslighting began. Drum roll. Apparently, I was absent too often. I didn't pay enough attention to her. She needed more love and affection than I was giving her, etc., etc. I turned around and faced her, her eyes quite red from all the crying, and I told her, get out. Her head dropped down as she realized there was no coming back from this. She left to pack her bags, and 20 minutes later, she was out of my life. Well, that's awesome, but still, I have a hard time believing it's going to be that easy. I mean, it says Ronnie bought Michelle out of her house, and she moved in with me as a guest originally. My ex-wife moved in with Ronnie with the promise that I will give her half the value of the house within 3 months. 3 months? Okay, I hope you have enough in cash. Both our divorces went without any issue, and 9 months later, I was a free man. Congratulations. This was going to happen anyway. And now Ronnie's stuck with her bitch ass. Of course, Michelle and I got together. We spent 3 weeks in France, hanging out, having wine, good foods, and meeting her extended family, and it was heavenly. The way you guys write, heavenly. I'm just messing with you, man. You're a British gentleman. You speak and write a hell of a lot better than the rest of us Yanks do. It was never out for revenge, but it came, kinda. Michelle and I went to a local bistro one day for an early dinner, and after a few minutes, I saw my wife and Ronnie sitting in a booth away to my right. My wife had her back to me, but I could tell by her body language that she was going off on Ronnie, and with the expression on Ronnie's face, that gave me a deep satisfaction. He looked utterly miserable. Ha ha, motherfucker. I mean, it's not like he has to be with her. People don't change. I reached across the table and grabbed Michelle's hand, and she smiled at me, said I love her, and I meant it. It was the first time I said anything to anybody like that in years, but it felt so perfect. Well, that's great, bro, but be careful. You can love your girl, don't be in love with her. I hope you understand this. That was years ago. Michelle and I are still together. I've retired now and enjoy gardening and bird watching. Oh, you must be older. Maybe instead of your 50s, you're in your 60s at this point. Michelle retires in just over a year, and we plan to buy a small holding in France. Summers in England and winters in France is our plan. I cannot wait. Thanks, SSM, and keep up the good work that you do. Well, bro, good story. I mean, I'm sorry what happened to you, but then again, I mean, okay, you got your kids out of her. I'm assuming and pray to God those are your kids. Okay, fine. But all those years you were with her, and obviously she was an asshole. You made it clear she was, but at least she went on that girls trip. You found her phone and caught her, and now you're in a good place. Well, I want you to take all the lessons you've learned the hard way, the lessons you learned watching this channel, and make sure that the same shit doesn't happen with your married. It doesn't say if you're married to Michelle. Okay? I'm not sure. And frankly, you shouldn't be. Be with her, have a good time, enjoy the rest of your lives together. It'd be better off that way. People get married, fucks everything up. So I wish you the best with your relationship with Michelle, and carry on there, and you have a good relationship with your kids, and no doubt you'll have grandchildren one day if you don't already. Great, you know? And I'm sure your ex is just as fucking miserable as she was before, and that douchebag Ronnie's dealing with her, or somebody's dealing with her and all that. So anyhow, man, this is an example of just living a life is the best revenge. So I'm happy you found happiness in the end. Just keep that up. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Guys, definitely give this guy a shout out. Let him know that you appreciate his story, and I wish him well. And guys, you got a good story you want to share, please send it over to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com, and I'm just going to go and I'll cover it. Whether it's a personal story, a question you may have, or a good article that's definitely worth me covering, I'll definitely do it. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.